What's up, guys? With talking up about the 2023 NFL Draft, people like me and you guys watching this are looking ahead to 2024. 2024 has potentially two generational quarterbacks in Drake May and Caleb Williams. We're going to be focusing on Caleb Williams a little bit here in this video. First things first, tanking is a very, very risky strategy and probably not worth it if you look at teams that have done it. It usually ends up failing and taking way too long. However, depending on a team's situation, it might make sense for the future of the franchise. Think about how long Patrick Mahomes will be running the league with the Chiefs. A franchise QB could carry a team for as long as 2 decades. Look at Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees. Add 20 years to your age and taking how long that is. Secondly, if your favorite team is a team I think should tank, try to hear me out because I think it could heavily benefit your franchise. I'm not trying to ruin any of your teams. I just think that Caleb Williams could vastly improve your team and it might be worth it. So a few things that I took into account here were the strength of schedule, which you guys will see, some draft picks in the 2023 NFL Draft, which could affect the team in 2024 or the 2023 season. Cap space in 2024 offseason, as well as obviously the rosters, which are probably the biggest impact on if they should tank or not. As you guys can see, the first team I have here is the Washington Commanders. And you may be thinking, why would I put the Commanders here if they almost made the playoffs last year? And that's because teams can still trade up to the first pick. Just look at the Panthers. They made it to 9. They had to pick 9 and moved all the way up to the first pick because they feel like they have the franchise guy in that draft with CJ Stroud or Bryce Young, in my opinion. The Commanders could definitely use a restart. They have Dan Snyder, who will probably end up leaving the franchise soon. So they're going to have a new owner, which makes a big impact on the team. They have some really young stars right now with Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, and Brian Robinson. And the 2022 quarterback class was very mid. Pickett could be the only QB to come out of that class as a potential franchise QB. Now, Howell will have his opportunity to prove himself this year. The Commanders got Howell for very impressive value, and that's why I like what they're doing there. Might as well give him a chance. I would have liked Anthony Richardson here, but they're too low at 16 to get him. He's probably going to go top 4. The Commanders have players to surround someone like Williams, like I said, in Dodson, McLaurin, Robinson, and then their O-line, who they are improving. And the defense has serious potential barring injury. Chase Young should be back, as he has had plenty of time to recover. They signed Deron Payne to a massive deal. Honestly, their D-line should be top 5 in the league, and they have that pick at 16 where they could go O-line or they could go defense, maybe cornerback, maybe someone like Darnell Wright, Joey Porter, Devon Witherspoon, Christian Gonzalez. So I like their team, but it's a lot of young talent, and I don't think they're going to be able to top the NFC. The other thing I like about the Commanders is their secondary with Derek Forrest, St. Juste, and Cameron Curl. They just signed Cody Barton, and I think Commanders fans are going to be impressed by him. He seemed to be really good as a backup for the Seahawks. And I want to clarify that I feel like this is probably definitely one of those trade-up teams, as they almost made the playoffs last year. So here's the Commanders' strength of schedule and cap space for 2024. 2023 season, then 2024 cap space. They're going to have actually a relatively difficult schedule, which I'm not sure if that's fair, but it's just how it works. And then they have a decent amount of cap space with 56 mil so far. They have the potential to put pieces around Williams in that offseason. So here's my pitch. If Sam Howell doesn't pan out, they're stranded with no QB. Don't waste another season with young talent and do what you have to go get Caleb Williams so the team can take off in 2024. In a very similar situation as the Commanders, I have the Falcons as the next team that could go for Caleb Williams. They decided not to go for Lamar Jackson. They're going to be too low in this year's draft to get a quarterback, and the NFC South might be mid again. They're going pretty crazy in free agency so far. They stole Onyemata and Caden Ellis from the Saints, and they signed the best safety in free agency with Jesse Bates. They traded for Jonnu Smith, who's going to be their blocking tight end because they like to run a lot. They're going to try and start the season with Desmond Ridder. So similar to Sam Howell, that's another rookie second-year quarterback that they're going to bank on. I've heard some comparisons to this situation being similar to the Eagles with Jalen Hurts, and it could go very well. And Desmond Ridder could prove to be their franchise quarterback this season, or it could go horribly wrong and Ridder could show he's not a starting caliber quarterback in the NFL. The Falcons chose not to go for Lamar, as I said, and their team is actually getting pretty competitive in the NFC South with the free agency they've had so far. If they're missing a quarterback that's bad, that's going to tank the entire team. Their cap space is working for them in this situation here with 81 mil so far, but the strength of schedule is not working in their favor for Caleb Williams, as they have the easiest one. So they could easily win a lot of games just based off, good competitive play. That also means they're one of the worst teams in the league. So similar to the Commanders, here's going to be my pitch. They're building a scary team on the low. They had the second youngest team entering 2022. You can afford to have a bad year, and really all it would take is one pretty bad year to turn things around. If they draft Caleb Williams, the rest of the NFC should be scared. Imagine Caleb Williams, Tyler Algier, Cordero Patterson, Kyle Pitts, and Drake London on the same team. Not to mention that good offensive line. This is an offense that could take you to the playoffs. I would not be talked out of this. The next team I have that would look scary with Caleb Williams, or that could heavily benefit from tanking for him, would be the Cardinals. And the Cardinals have a lot going against them at this moment. Reports said some coaches chose to not take the head coach job there because of Kyler Murray. They look to get rid of DeAndre Hopkins, and the trenches on offense and defense are looking really rough. The offensive line and defensive line set the tone of the game, so with the Cardinals line, they're going to lose a lot. And they're going to need more than just Will Anderson, which is who I think they're going to go with, and that's a great pick. He's one of those players that you could play with as a cornerstone to your franchise. But one of the biggest reasons is I'm not sure I trust Rich Gannon as the head coach, especially when the team needed a coach that they could buy into. Just watch some of those videos with the meeting between him and Rondale Moore, I believe. Those grown men not going to be buying into that cringe. They weren't a great team when they went like 10-1 to start the year 2 years ago. They did not play really well in the playoffs at all, and there's going to be a problem there, and I don't think Will Anderson or Rich Gannon will be fixing that. That's what Caleb Williams is going to do for them. And I know Kyler Murray has an ACL injury to recover from, but here's my pitch for the Cardinals. If Kyler Murray is able to come back and they still lose a lot, they're going to have a higher pick. Kyler Murray's still young, and he's in his prime, so they can use that to their advantage, trade him for 1 to 2 firsts, and then some, and use that to get Caleb Williams and use some of that compensation to get O-line help and build from there. The Cardinals are kind of in the middle of the pack here with their strength of schedule and cap space. At the moment, they have $29 million in cap space for 2024, and then their season, they're going to have the 11th hardest schedule. They're going to have a tough schedule, but they also don't have that much room in cap space, so we'll see what happens there. The Rams have a window to rebuild. Sean McVay decided to stay with the team. This means that realistically, the Rams only have 1 to 2 years to start over and get it right. They just traded Ramsey for a third and a tight end, which was confusing. They're looking to trade Robinson, cut Leonard Floyd, and there's mixed reports that Matthew Stafford could be on the trade block. That is rebuilding land, and similar to the Bucs, it's probably because they went all out for the Super Bowl, but the fuck them picks is biting them in the ass right now. It's easy to look at this negatively now, but it's obviously a viable strategy as both teams won Super Bowls doing this, so you can look at it two ways, and winning a Super Bowl is the ultimate goal. So Stafford is 35 years old too, so the Rams are going to need a younger guy, and that's going to be Caleb Williams for them. What better can you get? And then here are their strength of schedule and draft picks, and also cap space. So they have a lot of picks in the 2023 NFL draft. They have a decent amount of cap space, and they have actually a relatively difficult schedule. It's in the top 10, so they're probably going to lose some games depending on Matthew Stafford's level of play. But they've clearly shown that they're in the rebuilding stage, and Caleb Williams could hugely help keep Sean McVay. So here's my pitch for the Rams. The team is already rebuilding. Trade or cut Stafford. Keep Cooper Kupp at any cost. Get your franchise QB, and use that as a reason for your very successful head coach to stick around for another decade. The next team I have is the Tennessee Titans, and to me, they're the most surprising team here that I put on this list. They were a playoff team 2 years ago. The last year obviously didn't go as they wanted, but that was mainly off of some injuries. They decided to cut Taylor Lewan, cut Ben Jones, and put Derrick Henry on the trade block reportedly. The Taylor Lewan thing was expected. Ben Jones and Derrick Henry, that was a bit of a surprise. No more A.J. Brown, no more Robert Woods. They have a new GM, and to me, it's kind of looking like he's a little bit hungry for some capital and rebuilding his own team here. which I don't blame them. There's even been talk of them thinking about moving up for a QB in this year's draft, but I don't think that's going to happen, and I believe they should be primed to suck, honestly, and get their franchise QB in 2024. So the Titans have 6 picks in the 2023 NFL draft. They also have a lot of cap space in 2024, and they have a pretty easy schedule for this coming season, but their roster doesn't really hold much talent, especially if they get rid of some of these players like Derrick Henry. So my pitch for the Tennessee Titans is sell Derrick Henry for his highest value, which is right about now. The problem with Henry is that you have to commit to 30-40 rushes a game if he's your running back. He's a monster, obviously, but the lack of a passing attack has halted his success and the Titans' success, as well as their O-line. Ryan Tannehill is probably not the QB for much longer, and Malik Willis did not look like a franchise QB in his opportunities as the starter. Begin rebuilding the O-line, starting with this draft at pick 11. Develop Treylon Burks and Kyle Phillips. This upcoming draft will be a good draft to go receiver on day 2 to keep building that room. Some day 2 receivers are underrated as fuck too. Like, look at DK Metcalf, Devontae Adams, Michael Thomas. There's a few of them off the top of my head. Derrick Henry's going to land you a first or a second rounder, especially with the way running backs have been getting paid and devalued. Might be even more like a third rounder, who knows. And that could be used to help your O-line and to protect Caleb. They could get some secondary help, or they could get the replacement running back. And the team that I think needs to tank the most for Caleb Williams is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And no, that's not because they're in the NFC South. I truly think this would help them the most. The Bucs are showing interest in Baker Mayfield and Jacoby Brissett to be their starting quarterback. It is a very valid reason for the Bucs to be at the top of this list. They don't have much cap space at all, as you'll see, and they have a ton of free agents to resign. They probably won't sign most of these guys back. They did re-sign Jamel Dean, but I see most of the other guys leaving. Tom Brady retiring really gave the Bucs no choice but to do this. They went all in, just like the Rams during Brady's tenure, and they're on the back end of that strategy now. They had the oldest roster on average in the league in 2022, and here are some of their assets. They have 9 picks in the 2023 NFL draft. They have 37 mil in 2024, so they have a decent amount of room there, but definitely not in 2023 offseason. There's not much there. And they have a relatively easy schedule, but not the easiest. And the NFC South is going to be kind of a shit show, so we'll see what happens there. But my pitch for the Bucs is, why not get Caleb Williams or Drake May and begin the transition to being the team that rules the NFC South? It's wide open right now. The 2024 and 2025 draft class will most likely be deeper than 2023. So use those picks you have from the trades and build around this QB. You have Rachaad White, good wide receivers, Tristan Wirfs. Build off this core for offense and win the NFC South. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up the teams that I think should tank for Caleb Williams in 2023. Williams and Drake May should be put in their own tier, but there are tons of QBs that have the opportunity and potential to show they're worthy of a first-round pick and chance to be your franchise QB. But let me know what teams I should have put on here, and if you enjoyed this, I got more on the way, so please subscribe.